First of all, just for context, the vast majority of inmates were men, followed by women, but the vast majority, roughly 90% of the inmates were men, and then women, and then 1% of the population was trans-identified, or what they call gender diverse. So that would include trans men, trans women, and then this other kind of more blurry category, which would include things like non-binary identities, which it's hard to parse out the sex because they just call them non-binary or gender diverse. But we know from other research that roughly 90% of non-binary people are female. And what the data show where it's especially divergent is in the sexual assault convictions. They found that roughly 17, I think it was 19 or 16.9% of the men were there for a sexual assault conviction, and 31% of the trans women were convicted for a sexual assault, compared to 0 of the women and 0 of the trans men, which is very interesting because there are some hypotheses that testosterone is a driver for some aggressive behavior. But that doesn't really pan out in this data, because if testosterone was the driver for something like sexual assault, you would think that we would be seeing more of the trans men commit sexual assault once we're on testosterone, and that isn't what the data shows. It's natal males, regardless of whether they're trans identified or not, are the ones that are convicted of sexual assaults. So that is a very clear sex-based pattern. What's interesting, though, is that the vast majority, I don't remember the exact figure now, but somewhere in the ballpark of 97% of those trans women who were convicted for sexual assaults committed those assaults prior to identifying as trans.